Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by MacStadium, Hover, and Mint Mobile. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, of course, is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I am hip deep in widgets, Federico.
Oh my God, we've made a mess. We've done mistakes were made last night before recording this, and we're gonna talk about them. I personally revolutionized my home screen.
You have. I'm very excited.
You may be familiar with the home screen that I shared on Connected a few days ago. It has completely changed. So here we are. We're gonna talk about our home screens, and I think John has been playing around with widgets and apps and different layouts as well. So we're just gonna talk about those, and of course we're gonna share screenshots. People can find screenshots. Just for those who are not aware, in our show notes, there's going to be links to the images, but also in the chapter artwork, maybe we can do something there.
Absolutely.
So if your podcast client of choice supports custom chapter artwork, you will also see it there, but otherwise, just tap the link in the show notes. Now, before we get to business, John.
Yes?
I think we should share a few updates, of course. It's Club MacStories Anniversary Month still. What's going on with the club this week in terms of like all the special things we're doing?
So as people may have heard, we are doing 4 weeks of giveaways and discounts on apps. So the discounts are still available. I'll put a link in the show notes. If club members log into their account, there's a special page at club.macstories.net/anniversary. And there you'll see all the details about how to redeem those discounts on something like 30, 35 apps, something like that. And then we're doing giveaways every week through the MacStories weekly newsletter. And we've got something like 8 or 9 every single week. We just last week did our first round of giveaways and then gave those out the following Friday. So that's what we're doing. We're, the newsletters come out on Friday. You can sign up. We'll pick them the next week, and then we hand them out. And so we're doing that for 4 solid weeks, another 35, 36 apps. And we're in week 2, and it's been going really well. People are really excited about it. We've had hundreds of people signing up, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it certainly has been. It doesn't feel like 5 years, and I say this every week. So we are super thankful to our club members, and we have lots more coming. Like this anniversary month is not just the giveaways and the discounts.
True.
There's a lot in terms of content coming, of course. A lot of it depends on my iOS review because a lot of those perks are going to be related to iOS 14 and iPadOS, and the things I've been doing, the making of, the behind the scenes, the shortcuts, the scripts, all that kind of stuff is coming with my iOS review. So don't worry, this is not just giveaways and discounts, although those are pretty awesome. And it's gonna, they are continuing on a week by week basis. So it's nice. We keep things fresh. So there's that. And also, in addition to the club anniversary month, I would like to point people to MacStories.net/tag/ you have 2 options, either iOS 14, that's iOS -14, or tag/widgets, because we have created these 2 separate hubs for all the, you may have seen some of the app reviews that we've done, that John and Ryan have done, and Tim, of course, for drafts that we've done over the past few weeks. We have a lot of iOS 14 and iPadOS 14 related content on MacStories. So if you want to see like all the sort of the best widgets and the widgets that we like, you can check out those reviews. And even on that front, we have more coming. So I would suggest you can go to the MacStories.net and check out those tags, or just scroll the homepage. And also in the top toolbar, you will find in the menu sections for iOS 14, or just search for iOS 14 in the search bar. You have options. So the guys have been busy. John and Ryan have been busy for sure.
Yeah, and if you're a club member, take a look at the last couple of issues of MacStories Weekly, because we've been collecting widgets there too. There are just so many.
Even more.
Yeah, we I think Ryan did a collection of 6, and then I did a collection of 6, because there are so many widgets that we can't write long, in-depth reviews about every single one, although there are a lot more that we like. So we've been putting a lot of those in the newsletter as well. So you'll find ones in there that serve, I think, I would say in general, more narrow purposes, apps that maybe haven't gotten updates except for widgets. They're great widgets, but they probably don't merit a full-on review just because they're more widget focused than they are iOS 14 focused. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by MacStadium. MacStadium is the leading provider of Apple Mac infrastructure as a service. Whether you need a single Mac Mini or a fully scalable Mac private cloud, Mac Stadium can help you move your iOS and Mac app development out from under your desk and into the cloud. Mac Stadium is the only provider of enterprise-class Apple Mac infrastructure as a service. Think AWS or Azure, but built on Mac hardware. Mac Stadium has years of expertise doing this with companies like Capital One, Dropbox, Shopify, Pandora, and many more. And they support many of your favorite development tools like Homebrew and Node.js. You could start with a single Mac Mini if you're a small team or just need a hosted Mini for your personal use. However, they can provide scalable private clouds that can go from one Mac to thousands with dedicated firewalls, super fast storage, and a global footprint in data centers all over the world. And with Mac Stadium, you get private dedicated hardware and the same level of security you would get with AWS or Azure. In other words, they've got a long list of security certifications. Want to move your iOS and Mac development into the cloud? Talk to Mac Stadium. Learn more about Mac Stadium's infrastructure at macstadium.com/appstories. Again, that URL is macstadium.com/appstories. And for listeners of this show, Mac Stadium is offering 2 months for the price of one on a Mac Mini subscription. Just enter the promo code AppStories at checkout. Again, that's macstadium.com/appstories. To learn more about moving your development into the cloud, our thanks to Mac Stadium for their support of App Stories.
All right, now on to the home screen. Now, should I talk about what I've done? You've seen my screenshots, John. I think you were surprised by the things I've done.
I was in the midst of editing our club podcast, MacStories Unplugged, and you sent me a screenshot of your homepages. And I know just from having shared them with me in the past and what you talked about on Connected last week, that it surprised me because it was definitely different than anything I've seen before or heard about before. So I definitely want to hear more about that. You also spurred me to spend a lot more time on this than I was originally planning to. Last night I fell asleep rearranging my home screens, Federico.
That's the best kind to lull you to sleep. Perfect. So the main idea behind this new home screen, sort of a home screen version 2, was to fix an issue that I had before. I touched upon this on Connected. I think Mike maybe asked me, aren't you surprised that you're using multiple pages for app icons? And I started thinking about that, and I sort of, as I always do, I started sort of doing this sort of a self-evaluation of my habits and like, what am I actually doing on my phone? And I realized I really didn't enjoy the fact that my most used apps were split, essentially, between the first and the second page.
Okay.
I really didn't like that. It was okay. Like, it was fine if I wanted to swipe to the second page and use Slack, for example, or tap on files. That was fine. But I started wondering, is there a better way to approach this? And so the new home screen, you will see there's a few interesting things here. First of all, I'm using a new muted dark gray background. I'm not sure about this one yet, but my idea was I want to have a layout where at least some of the widgets blend into the wallpaper, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I wanted to keep some of the elements from the previous home screen in place. So it may not look all that different in terms of the widgets that I'm using. At the top, you will see that by default, I have the Now Playing widget from Soar, the Apple Music client. That was there before as well. This is a stack of music-related things. Just because my iPhone, it's the device that I use the most for music. As soon as Castro puts out a widget for podcast episodes, I think this will also be stacked in here, because obviously I also use my iPhone for podcast episodes, but Castro doesn't have an iOS 14 update yet. In any case, so I started thinking, and I knew, okay, I want to keep the music stuff in here. The Soar widget, if you enable dark mode, it defaults to this dark gray background for the right section of the widget, where you can see the title of the song that's currently playing and your up next queue. And as I mentioned on Connected, this is the system queue. Soar is an Apple Music client, and it uses the default system music player. So anything that you put in your queue in Soar or in Apple Music shows up in the other app and vice versa. So my idea was, wouldn't it be nice if I had this sort of a custom home screen layout where the album artwork is an image on the left side, but the right side of the widget sort of it looks like text on top of a wallpaper, so that I don't even see the borders of the widget, for example. So that was my starting point. I want to have this sort of custom layout where it kind of looks like there's text on top of the home screen, even though it's not, like it's a widget. And so here's what I've done. Last week, I put out a shortcut called Wall Creator, right? That lets you create custom colored wallpapers for your iPhone and iPad. So what I've done, this is a life hack. I took a screenshot. So I enabled dark mode on my iPhone, and I took a screenshot of the Soar widget. Then I tapped on the screenshot and I entered markup mode. And from markup mode, I used the new system color picker in iOS 14 and the eyedropper tool to extract that exact shade of gray from the screenshot. And I switched to the sliders tab in the color picker, and I copied the hex code for the dark gray color.
Right.
Then I deleted the screenshot, and with the color code in my clipboard, I used Wall Creator, and I put in the hex code, and I created a dark gray background. So I saved that, and I set it as my wallpaper, and I set it on the home screen, and it looked like Soar was blending into the wallpaper, which is what I wanted. Now, the other two widgets on this home screen, they're the same as before. So I have two small stacks. One of them is for Apple Notes. So just a quick way to switch between three of my most used notes.
Right.
Right now, it's the it's the Scratchpad, which I always use to append all kinds of stuff that I copy, that I save on my device. There's a note, which is a shared note with Brian King, our designer, motion artist for my iOS review. So because it's a note that I'm always opening these days to check on the progress for graphics and animations. And the other note is it's called the Everything bucket. It's a note where I save all kinds of iOS 14 related things that I need to bring into my review. And on the bottom right, I still have the stack of three different small widgets. One is the current timer in Timery. The other is a shortcut that lets me open a copied link in Safari View Controller from the home screen, thanks to Compact UI. And the other one is a simple Todoist widget that shows me the tasks due today. Now, this is the same layout as before. And as I mentioned at the top, it looks like Soar is blended into the background. Then I thought, okay, the thing that I didn't like was swiping to the second page and to the third page to access more apps.
Yeah, this is the part that I think is really interesting about what's changed about your first home screen.
So I thought, okay, I want to have this fancy layout where things look like they're blended into the background. And I want to have faster access to more apps from the home screen, from the first page of the home screen. So I created 4 different folders. One for work, one for utilities, one for media, and one for social networks.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the tricky part. I used a shortcut that I shared, I think 2 years ago or last year. I think it should be on the MacStories Shortcuts archive.
Okay.
It's called Copy Blank Characters. It's a shortcut that uses a Unicode trick to copy a blank character to your clipboard. It's a Unicode special character that looks like nothing. It's a transparent character. So I used that shortcut and I named those folders with that character. I did this so that the names of the folders don't show up on the home screen. So they just look like, and because of the dark gray wallpaper, these folders just look like collection of tiny icons grouped together and just floating there in a corner.
Do you have more than the 9 per folder? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
I only have 9 per folder, so it looks even and nicely spaced out and consistent. And my reasoning was, if I'm swiping to the second page or to the third page to access these apps anyway, it shouldn't be a big deal to tap on folders and, tap once and then tap again to launch the app. It's still a couple of interactions anyway. But this way, I can keep everything on the first page. So I'm not sure about this yet. Of course, muscle memory hasn't kicked in yet. I'm trying to force myself to try this approach because I've never been a huge folder person myself, at least in terms of the apps that I use the most. but I think I'm gonna stick to it, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm already kind of in the habit of, and you might also notice that the media and social folders are at the bottom of this grid of
Right.
4 folders. My idea was, I know that I'm tapping the music icons and the Soar icons and Twitter and Instagram and Apollo all the time. So I
Right.
want to make it easier for my thumb to reach those folders. And so that's why I keep those at the bottom. But with this method, I also have first page access to mail, to Slack, to files, to IA Writer, and to everything else that I use, and also to utilities like pcalc and tot and the clock for alarms.
Yeah, I think this is a really clever solution to this, because this is one of the, when we get to mine, one of the issues that I have found that has been bothering me is figuring out what to do with all the app icons and how they how to kind of arrange them with the widgets I have without having some apps that I use pretty frequently 2-3 screens down the line. And this is a way to make those apps a lot more in your face on the first page, which I like.
Yeah. So I'm in the process right now of sort of learning to force myself in a way to reach to those folders and kind of learn the position of the icons. I really like the visual effect, honestly. The visual effect of the Soar widget blended into the wallpaper and the folders kind of disappearing and just showing the icons. Now, of course, there's a problem here. To make these widgets, to make the Soar widget have this effect, and you can see also other dark mode widgets. We're going to talk about those in a minute as we get to the second page of my home screen. I have to use dark mode all the time.
Right.
Because these widgets, Apple Notes, Soar, Todoist, there's a couple more widgets on the second and third page. They don't let you configure the widget to say, even if you're using light mode on your device, use a dark background for the widget. You have to enable system dark mode. Now, I'm not a huge dark mode fan myself. I kind of prefer light mode. I think it's better on my eyes in terms of contrast. Never been, I'm the opposite of Mike, for example. Our friend Mike Hurley, he likes to always leave dark mode on because he prefers the color scheme. And I'm the opposite. I actually prefer light mode. But if I want to have this visual effect on the home screen, I'm forced to leave dark mode enabled all the time, which right now, this is the primary downside. However, thankfully, a lot of third-party apps, they let you override system dark mode.
Right.
So you have settings in apps to do things like, even if I'm using dark mode, override it with the light theme of your app. And in third-party apps, this is pretty well supported. I can do it in Todoist. I can do it in Fantastical, in Timery, in IA Writer, in Good Links, I believe as well, in Apollo. So third-party apps thankfully do this. However, there's some of them, even Twitter lets you do this, by the way. Some of them just don't care. Like Instagram, for example, you're just forced to use it in dark mode now.
Right.
And of course, Apple apps don't have this kind of manual override because Apple just thinks, we're going to give you the simplest possible option.
Yep.
It's light mode. You have a light theme. You enable dark mode. You have a dark theme. So right now, apps like Messages and Photos and Safari and Notes, I always have to use them in dark mode if I want to have this visual effect on my home screen.
Yeah, that is a drawback if you're not a big fan of dark mode. I'm kind of on Team Mike with this one. I have my phone in dark mode all the time and my iPad. I just like it better for whatever reason. I actually feel like dark mode's easier on my eyes. So it's interesting. I think it's just, different people, different effects, I guess, on the way you look at things. But yeah, I can see that being a problem. So how does it look when you're in light mode? Is it okay, or is it just a little jarring?
It's okay. I mean, it's pretty. It's just you lose that visual effect, right?
Yeah,
you lose that nice blending of the widgets into the wallpaper,
sure.
Which right now I really kind of want to have.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Hover. When you have one big idea, where do you go? Well, your business starts with a domain name. So for many entrepreneurs, Hover is that big leap. Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from. No matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for you and your business. And they have excellent technical support to answer any questions you might have. They're dedicated to getting you online, not upselling you. Maybe you've always wanted to try live streaming. Why not grab a .live domain and have it redirect to your streaming platform, which Hover can also handle, by the way. Hover has free Whois privacy, so the bad guys don't get your information, a clean UX and UI, monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's easy to see why Hover is the popular choice for people starting a business. When I started my business, Hover is where I went first. I came up with a name for the business, and the first thing I did was to register the .com. I've also used it to register domains for all of my kids and for other projects. It's super fast, simple, and affordable, and the service is unparalleled. We know you like intuitive user experiences and things that just work straight out of the box, so I know you'll appreciate Hover. Their UX and UI really is simple, clean, and easy to navigate. Buy your domain and start using it today. Go to hover.com/appstories and get 10% off all new purchases. That URL one more time, hover.com/appstories for 10% off all new purchases. Make a name for yourself with Hover. Our thanks to Hover for their support of the show.
Now, I want to talk about the second page, and then I'll hand it off to you because I want to talk about your home screen. But before I get to that, let me mention briefly the third and fourth pages. The third page is basically unchanged from the last episode of Connected. This is a task management page. There's a Timery medium widget at the top. This is from the Timery beta. I hope that this Timery update is coming out shortly. This is a widget that shows me the total amount of time I've tracked for the current week for all my projects. And at the bottom, there's just 4 small Todoist widgets. 2 of them display tasks from different filters, and 2 of them are actually stacked, and they're just shortcuts to create tasks into specific projects with specific metadata already attached. This is one of the benefits of the Todoist widgets, which Ryan covered in our review on MacStories. And the fourth page, as before, it's the let's discover something page. I cannot think of a better term. So there's the good links widget to give me a random article from my read later queue. There's a lookup widget for the word of the day. There's the Wikipedia widget for a random interesting fact that happened on this day in the past. And there's an Apollo widget that loads just 2 posts from my subscriptions in Reddit. The last one I actually tweeted about a few nights ago. I'm using Widget Wizard, which is another app that Ryan covered in our roundup to display calendar events from a specific calendar, no matter how far they are in the future. This was a whole thing on Twitter and in our private Slack a few days ago. I have this very specific problem where I like to save upcoming music releases in a calendar on my iCloud account called Music Releases, just because I want to keep tabs on upcoming albums from my favorite artists. Now, of course, I'm using Music Harbor to keep track of these releases, and I'm using MusicBot, actually MusicBot Pro, to save them to my calendar. However, these releases, they may be weeks or months away, but the problem that I've discovered is that most calendar widgets, and believe me, I've tried them all, Fantastical Calendars, there was another one called Eventually from the App Store. Like, I had a screenshot on Twitter with a bunch of apps that I tried. All of them, they are limited to showing you either up next events, so like due in a couple of days, or at the very most, a couple of weeks out.
Right.
But for example, right now I have an event that is due on October 16th, which is when the new Young Blood album is coming out. And no widget was showing me that event. And so after much experimentation and frustration, I discovered that Widget Wizard just doesn't care. You configure the app to load a specific calendar, and you install the widget, and now I have a list of upcoming events, even though one of them is due on October 16th, and the other is due on Friday, November 3rd. Oh, there's going to be Friday the 13th. Oh, smart of Youngblood to release the album on that day. And the album is called Weird. Oh, that's genius.
Yeah, that is good.
Okay. Now, the second page. This is where more magic happened,
All right.
John. And then I promise I'm done.
Okay.
The bottom half is kind of the same. Shortcuts for my top 4 shortcuts that I use all the time. And 2 stacks. Timery, Todoist, a bunch of shortcuts that I use. It's sort of like the podcast section in a way, because I have my podcast timers and my podcasts list from Todoist. At the top, though, you will find Widgeridoo. Now, Widgeridoo is this very interesting custom widget creation utility that lets you design your own widget using a blocks UI. In the app, you open the app and you can actually design the layout of your widget by dragging in different blocks of data. And these blocks of data can be the system battery, the calendar, a photo, music, whatever. So my thought was, in Widgeridoo, I can use a custom color for the background. So, okay, I can set the dark gray color so that also Widgeridoo looks like it's blending with the home screen. Then I thought, okay, what are some of the things that I would like to have in here? The battery percentage, because it's not shown on the iPhone 10 and the 11 Pro anymore.
Right.
I kind of want to know the number without always showing the number in the status bar. So this is a nice way to get the exact percentage of the battery in a widget on the home screen. On the right side of this widget, you will see another block for 2 of my upcoming calendar events. So a very nice way to have like a mini up next mode in a widget. The bottom left, though, this is kind of like a magic trick. The bottom left, you will see it's a quote. It's an inspirational quote. Right now, it's a quote from, I don't know, let's see, who's the author here. It's from a service called theysaidso.com from William James Moore. Okay. I don't know who this person is, but it's a nice quote. So Widgeridoo, one of the many blocks that you can install is a block that loads a string of text from a JSON URL. So I discovered this free quotes API that allows you to load data in terms of daily quotes from a web service. And in Widgeridoo, it's actually very nice in that you can put in a JSON URL, you can extract the specific key path of a JSON dictionary, and even better, when you tap on the quote, you can say, go to this URL, which is the URL of the API that shows me the quote on a nicely designed web page.
Right.
So this is actually a smart widget that loads data from the web every single day, changes the quote that is displayed on the home screen, and is smart enough to update the URL of that quote. And of course, it blends into the wallpaper, and it's set to the New York typeface, which is the new system font by Apple since last year. It's a serif typeface.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I think this is a Widgeridoo. That's one that I have not played with, but I've definitely got to check this out because this is, especially with the way you've got it blending in the background, I think it looks really nice there at the top of your screen.
Yeah. And I'm done.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Breaking up with your old wireless provider just got a whole lot easier thanks to Mint Mobile. They are the first company to sell premium wireless service online only. And now Mint Mobile is introducing their unlimited data plan for just $30 a month. Yep, that's right. An unlimited plan for $30. How much is your soon-to-be ex-wireless provider charging you? I bet it's a lot more. I tried Mint Mobile. The setup couldn't be simpler, and the fact that it's all online is even better. There's no need to go to a store. There's no need to be stuck on a phone call, working your way through a phone tree. It just works. The setup couldn't have been simpler, and the service was terrific. For people that hate their phone bill and are ready for something new, Mint Mobile offers their premium unlimited plan for just $30 a month. They do this by going online only, eliminating the traditional costs of retail, and then passing those savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. Break up with Big Wireless and switch to Mint Mobile's premium unlimited plan for just $30 a month. To get your unlimited wireless plan for just $30 a month and get a plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/appstories. Again, that URL so they know you came from the show is mintmobile.com/appstories. Cut your unlimited wireless bill to $30 a month at mintmobile.com/appstories. Our thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of the show. All right. So, we did an episode a while back when we very first started using widgets. And at the time, we were really only using the system ones because we didn't have any betas with widgets yet. And so at the time, I had laid out my first home screen with a small widget up in the upper left-hand corner, and then a medium one kind of dead center in the screen. And I've kept that. I actually kind of like that layout, because what I've done is at the bottom of my iPhone screen, I've got 8 apps that are ones that I use constantly. Things like Twitter and Shortcuts and Music and Lear and Home, the App Store, Notes, and Mail. I use all those. Plus, I've got my dock icons. The ones up in the top I use a lot, but not as frequently, and so they're further out of reach. I've got Good Links, where I save a lot of URLs for either just reading later for pleasure or for things like MacStories Weekly, Photos, and Camera. Now, the small widget is a stack, as it was when we spoke several weeks ago, but it's changed. It's got a Carrot Weather widget, which has the current temperature and conditions, and I've set, you can have up to 4 different data points under that. So I've got all sorts of information about the high and low temperature, the time the sun is going to set, the wind, and the UV index for now. I figured those are things that might be interesting to know. I've got the fitness small widget, because I like to know where I am on my rings, and this pops up every now and then during the course of the day. I've got the sewer now playing widget like you do, but it's a small one because I like to see that while I'm playing music. And I've got a Fantastical small widget that just shows the date. That's all it shows. It's not showing me any events, but I just added that this morning, actually, and I'm kind of hoping that the system learns, because I have, the smart rotation turned on, to display that at the beginning of the day so I can remember what date it is. Then in the middle, I've got these medium-sized widgets that haven't changed a whole lot. I've got photos, because I've really found that I enjoy having old photographs pop up during the course of the day. A lot of times it'll be like, on this day 5 years ago, that sort of thing. And it's a good way to refamiliarize yourself with your photographs. Right now it's showing a very bland picture of a road, which I don't know why that is. Then I've got the system calendar medium widget, which has my events and the mini month calendar. The music widget, which has my recently played playlists and albums. And then the Music Harbor upcoming releases widget. So I've got that. Oh, and I've got shortcuts too. But I should say that in all these screens I'm talking about, the things that I haven't really focused on yet, because I really haven't had time, are shortcuts, a task manager, and calendars. Because Fantastical just came out recently. I have not played around with it a lot yet. I want to try to use that instead of the system calendar for a while and see if it sticks with me. But I haven't set that up yet, nor have I set up a task manager or really thought about what shortcuts I want. So those are things that are probably going to change these screens eventually. My other screens, I tried to set them up kind of thematically, although page 2 is something that I think could be solved potentially by your folder trick on page 1, because what I've got here is I've got a big Carrot Weather widget. And the reason I have that is because I do like to dip into more details about, what the weather's going to be in the by the hour and in the upcoming days. But I mostly put this large widget here because I have a handful of apps that I use fairly frequently, but not as frequently as the ones that are on my
Right.
first home screen. And I don't want to put these in the app library. So it's things like settings and drafts and the phone and the wallet and maps, things like that. And I think if I reorganize some of these first page icons as well as these second page icons, I could probably collapse these down into folders on page 1 and eliminate this page altogether. I'm not sure that I really, since I've got weather covered elsewhere and I can easily just tap into Carrot Weather that way, I don't really need that large Carrot Weather widget there.
Yeah, the problem with the app library, I think, which is also one of the things that I point out in my iOS review, is this tension between iOS 14 almost pushing you to install as many widgets as possible on the home screen, so creating more pages, but the app library only being available after the very last page.
Right.
So in a way, you're kind of disincentivized from installing too many pages if you also want to use the app library. I think it's kind of weird that there's no way to access the app library from any page. It's something that I really hope Apple can fix for iOS 15. I don't know, maybe swiping up from the home screen, kind of like on Android, where on some devices you can swipe up to access the launcher. I think I would like something like that, so that I can install many pages, but also I don't have to navigate after the very last page if I also want to use the app library.
Right. And you can use search, of course, but
Right.
there's certain apps that it's just too much to have to do search all the time to get into Maps or to check Instagram. I mean, these are things I like to use, but I just don't use them quite as much, but it's still too frequent to want to rely just on search for that stuff. All right. So, moving on, I have my health and fitness widget page. And first medium widget at the top is a stack. And what's in here right now, and I'm not sure whether I'm sticking with this yet, I've got food noms, which you're not seeing in the screenshot, I don't think. And I've got another carrot weather widget, because this carrot weather widget is showing me, it's nice to, when you're getting ready to go out for a run, for instance, if you're going to exercise outside, to know what the temperature is. So that's why that is there. The main reason I put this up here is because I had space for it. The ones that I use the most are the medium widget at the bottom, which tells me basically how far I've gone. It tracks all of my running for the year, month, and week. And this is from Tempo. This is not out yet. It'll be out very soon. And then above that is a small widget that has a stack of 3 different things. I've got the CardioBot tracker for heart rate points. So you can kind of see, I can kind of see if I've gotten my healthy heart points from that app in there. I've got Ascend, which it shows me how many flights of stairs that I have climbed, and you can set a goal there.
You climbing that many stairs every day?
I've got, let's see, it's right now it says I'm at 4 of 13. So I don't set it that high, but I'm going up and down to my office every day, so that actually does it. Plus, it just counts. I don't know how it figures this out, but it's, when you're out for a walk, for instance, I might end up doing the equivalent of 4 or 5 sets of stairs just because of hills and that kind of thing. So it's not just stairs; it's elevation. And then I have a detail small widget from Tempo again that shows me stats about my most recent workout. And then these app icons here are all related to exercise and running. So this is my runner page. The next page is a reading page, and there's a large widget. It's got 2 different large widgets stacked on top of each other here. There's Lear, which I've got set to show me my Apple-related news. And this has done it's a real nice way to dip into the headlines quickly without having to open the app. And then Good Links, and I've got that set up to a tag called Reading that is just kind of my read later list that I have that's more for personal reading than anything for MacStories. I've got 4 icons, which are all related to either reading or research. Apollo, Reader, the Apple News app, and Airport, which is a beta app that it's a beta for betas, basically. So I like to browse around in there to look for new apps every now and then. And then because I had space, the Lear Hot Links widget. And this, again, I would say, the reason that's there is not as much because I care about hot links, but because I had space. And if I were to move these icons somewhere else for these apps, I might be able to kind of condense this all down a little bit.
Right.
Then just going to the last 2 pages, these are more entertainment type things. The first one is music, and I've got, a Music Harbor widget there, and then it's stacked with a launcher widget, which shows, I set it up to show some favorite playlists, and then a Sewer favorites widget as well. And then the small widget on this page is Sewer again, just because if I'm looking at music, I want to see what might be currently playing. And then finally, the last one is more video related and a little bit of miscellaneous. I've got a stack of medium widgets at the top, which are primarily IMDb widgets. There's popular movie trailers. I've got the Wikipedia on this day and photo widgets in here as well, just as kind of as a thing to check out and look at. And then another one for popular TV trailers. And IMDb News, and IMDb Fan Favorites, which is a what to watch widget that gives you suggestions for movies to watch. So lots of IMDb in this one, just as a way.
Lots of movies and TV shows.
Yeah, just to give me ideas when I'm sitting down to watch something. And the apps here are related. It's things like the TV app, the remote app, TV forecast from Matt Comey for tracking TV shows, YouTube, and then a few things like HomeCam and Ecobee, which are both HomeKit related apps that I use frequently, grocery and Amazon, because these are just apps. They're like, I don't know, I guess they're home apps that I use for personal stuff that I didn't have a good place for otherwise. And that's why, again, I'm kind of intrigued by your folder solution, because these are the kind of things that probably could go in a folder somewhere on the first page or even on the second page.
Yeah. There's lots going on here.
I know. What are you doing with your today view? Because
it's unchanged. It's unchanged from what I said on Connected, just a calendar, time zones, weather, and timers.
All right. I've got time zones, battery, timery, both timery, whatever timer is currently recording, as well as my saved ones and an any buffer. And any buffer widget as well.
Well, we did it for now. I'm sure this will change again. But
I know.
as of late September 2020, these are our home screens. I will be very surprised if they are the same in a month. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
I know. I'd be surprised if mine are the same by the weekend. I've been playing with this a lot, and I got to say, one of the things that I find a little frustrating with this is that it's very easy to scramble your pages when you're setting this up. I feel like this was maybe even better earlier in the earlier betas, but part of the issue I've had is that because we've been reviewing so many of these apps and I've been installing widgets to take screenshots and try them out, until you and I set this up for this episode, after my first page, everything was a complete disaster because I'd been installing widgets and it would shift my icons and other widgets into all sorts of unexpected orders. And that's no fun. It took me far too long to put this together, longer than I expected. But I think it'll stick for a little while, but probably not very long. All right, Federico, that's probably a good place to stop. We'll revisit this at some point, but we'll give everybody a little break. Let everybody kind of catch up to where we've been since we've been doing this for multiple weeks with the betas and everything. I want to thank our three sponsors again, and that is Mac Stadium, Hover, and Mint Mobile. You can find me and Federico over at MacStories.net. Federico is at Viticci on Twitter and Instagram. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHN VOORHWES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.